said, Democrats, they cry about slavery, how hard it was for them. And for once, I was like, you know what? I'm going to agree with them. I am going to agree with them, and I am inclined to agree with Miss Crockett for once. For once, this orangutan is right, and let me explain what I mean. When you hear them talk like this, you are witnessing the psychological effects of slavery and how it's affected us today. This is classic Stockholm Syndrome. She ain't never been a slave. She's never been a slave. But when you take a good look at this, I'm like, you know what? I finally agree with you. I'm not going to argue with you no more. There is no contention between us. This is Stockholm Syndrome and cognitive dissonance. This woman has effectively admitted that she and others like her, they are still under oppression and control. And do you know what? I agree. Why? Because she's a Democrat. She's a Democrat, and the Democrats, everywhere they rule, there is lots of oppression. And her constituents, they continue to vote for them. And that's where the Stockholm Syndrome comes from. And granted, now I pray that we don't have any more elected like this, but the skin trading, this is nothing but a skin trading victimhood idolater. And it is precisely what is wrong and why we need to do away with DEI. Diversity in the way they define it does not work. Diversity, according to how the left defines it, it will never work because it's not based on merit or skill or diversity of thought. It is simply on the basis of ethnicity. And my goal is, I hope, like what happened to Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, I'm hoping that somebody primaries her. Primary this orangutan and that she just disappear into the abyss and do something else, because America is tired. We are tired of this. We are tired of constantly having to relive and re-adjudicate the fact that slavery was bad and it is one of the stains on the fabric of America, but we cannot move forward and Black people cannot gain the respect of our peers because instead of respect, we get pity. The more you cry about oppression and what happened to somebody that you never met and did not know, and then the people you talking about, the same people who had you on the plantation, you are in the party of them. They didn't change. They are the ones in control of the educational plantation system. They're the ones that demand to keep you guys out there, your kids, on the educational plantation of a failing school. They demand it. If you cry for school choice, you know what they do? They ignore you. Go to your Democratic lawmaker and you tell them we must have school choice. And they will hem and haw and make every kind of excuse in the world that, oh no, school choice just takes money to give and it gives it to rich white folks. Isn't that what Freddie Haynes said? That they trying to take money, do away with the Department of Education so they could give money to rich white people. Lies again. This is why it is a very controversial statement. But at this point, it needs to be embraced. Slavery is a choice. Why? Because it is too hard for Black Democrats to examine and look at what the Democrats are doing. They can't do it. So instead, you have what's called cognitive dissonance sets in. This is the part, the slavery being a choice part. Cognitive dissonance is literally, it is the scientific term for pride. This woman's making a whole lot of money trying to grandstand and double down on the fact that even though Democrats for over the past 60 years have been a failure for Black people. They've been a failure for America, but especially for Black people. The cognitive dissonance is a scientific term for pride because pride says, I see the results, I see the writing on the wall, but instead of me humbling myself and saying these outcomes are trash and we got to do something different, you double down. You double down. Like literally, The pride of refusing to concede that you are wrong is what leads to the cognitive dissonance. And you continue to do the same thing, think you're going to get different results. From a biblical perspective, you guys, God hates pride. Everything out of this woman's mouth, I'll let her cook some more. It is nothing but pride. Let's let her finish.
On this particular issue, two things. There is an article from The Guardian, and it is a little old. It's from 2021. So I apologize. But it said that back then, just 3 years ago, white men represent 30% of the population, but 62% of office holders. These are the issues that we are constantly looking at and recognizing and trying to say, is this just? I can't even tell you how many white men have served in this chamber, but I can tell you that I am only the 55th black woman to be elected to Congress. And so when you want to talk about history and pretend as if it was so long ago, it wasn't.
But who cares that you're the 55th one? So my question is, do you want it 50-50? Like, how does this play out in real life? In Congress, since it's too many white men, mind you, these are elected officials by their constituents, and we only represent 11% of the population, but I don't know, math escapes her, Miss Finance, Business Administration lady. How would you like Congress to be laid out? Do we divide it up in a pie? You know, we go like this, and we say a third. We can only have a third white men. So that means the voters have to say, oh, wait a minute, I can't vote for him, even though he is more qualified and he represents my values and he is saying all the things that I would like to see in a congressperson. I can't vote for him because it's too many white people there. I gotta now. So, I mean, do we have equal representation of whites and then blacks? And then do we throw the Hispanics in there? What about the Asians? What if there are not enough Asians who run for office? Because typically they don't really run for office. Why? Because they too busy working and hustling and making money and owning everything, selling you all that hair hanging off your head, them darn lashes. That's what the Asians are doing. So they're like, I ain't even got time to entertain the foolishness that she talking about, because I got to get this hair imported from China and Malaysia so she can stick it on her hair. That's what the Asians are doing. The Hispanics, they're too busy having babies and owning landscaping companies and construction firms. That's what they doing, right? They the pool service. They too busy out here hustling, trying to get the bag. Meanwhile, they don't want to vote for you either because they see that you're anti-capitalism, and Hispanics absolutely love capitalism. So that just leaves the blacks and the whites, because the Indians ain't really enough for them. Kamala don't really count. She ain't in the Senate no more. And as the DEI VP, I don't know what she about to do after that. So that just leaves blacks and whites. So do we just split Congress and we have to have an equal number of blacks and an equal number of whites? Well, what about men versus women? How do we then do we drill it down some more and say, well, now that it's 50% white and 50% black, now we have to break it down by gender. So now the men and women going to be fighting, and then we got to drill it down some more. You got to have the rainbow cult represented. So you got to have some trans people in there. I mean, are we looking for wheelchair bound people with peg legs? Like, where does this diversity foolishness end? Where does it end? It's stupid, but it's so stupid that they don't even realize the folly and the error of the things that they advocate for. So this is why it's cognitive dissonance at this point. Cognitive dissonance, you guys, is a form of pride. A person will fight you 10 times harder to prove that they are not wrong than to admit that they are right. Look at all the energy that you have to expend to be like, you know I'm wrong, but I can't admit that I'm wrong. So I'm just going to drill down and keep thinking I'm right. I'm going to keep banging my head up against the wall, and the outcomes are trash and things are getting worse, not better. Like, I don't know if y'all knew, but Crockett was the vice chair of the Kamala Harris campaign. So she was essentially a surrogate and a mouthpiece for that failed campaign. So she definitely can't humble herself and say, we down bad. We ran a horrible campaign and got our butts spanked, and we probably need to go back to the drawing board. She can't do that. She can't do that. So much for tuning into this episode of the Standard of Truth podcast. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to check out the Standard Home and Living lifestyle store at standardhomeandliving.com. We've got everything from book studies, journals, and even podcast merch, so you can take a piece of this conversation with you wherever you go. And of course, be sure to follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok for more updates, behind the scenes, and daily insights. You can also stay connected at thestandardofTruthpodcast.com, where you'll find all the latest news and events, including live events coming to a town near you. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Until next time, keep standing firm in the truth. Grace and peace.